To Follow-Up Boss Office Hours. Today we're going to be focused on, this is an office hours workshop, which means we go a little bit deeper on some specific tools that we're going to be looking at, some specific, a little more detail. And I've got a document we're going to share. Our topic for today is time management for real estate, how to be productive and do all these crazy things you're supposed to be doing to be successful in this business. So my name is Lee Adkins. I'm the head of growth at Amplified Solutions and your host of Follow-Up Boss Office Hours. So we always record these sessions. They're available on YouTube after the fact. They also stream live to the Follow-Up Boss Facebook success community. So you can always find the recordings there. I'll also email out a link to the recording and the guide once the recording is ready. So I'm going to dig right in. As far as format today, we are going to share a guide with you for you to use. But I'm going to go through a quick presentation first, and then we'll dig into the guide, at which point we'll share the link to the guide so you guys can follow along. You can fill it in as we go if you want, but want to be, useful, and hopefully you can leave this with some notes that'll help you moving forward. So I also like to always start my time management presentations by saying, I'm not an expert in time management, and I don't think there are many people that are experts, because it's an ongoing battle. It's an ongoing struggle. You always get better. I can say that I've been very attentive to where and how I spend my time for the better part of 10 years or so now. But I would not say that I'm an expert. So I'm here to get better at this along with everybody who's joining us. So let me hop in here and share my screen. And get into slideshow mode. Okay. So I think you all know why you would want to manage your time, but I want to touch on these real quick. Obviously, a more balanced life, improved productivity, lower stress levels. I'm not sure I know anybody that doesn't want lower stress levels. Preparedness, or at least the feeling of preparedness. Improved focus, and also to learn the art of saying no. A wise person once said, no is a complete sentence. That's something I need to continue to work on as well. But obviously, managing your time, especially in any sort of commission-only business or independent contractor business, is hyper important. Because if you're at a job where you're getting a salary for doing certain things, it's still important. But certainly in our world in real estate, it's even more important. And I think also a lot of our roles change over time, right? In theory, we're an agent, and then maybe we lead a team, and then maybe we become a broker. There's a life cycle to being in the real estate business. And so therefore, there are also a lot of different pieces and skills and things that you need to learn and do and manage and have on your plate, potentially all at the same time. So the ways to manage your time, obviously a written list, using your computer calendar, and time blocking in both of those. I think you need all three of these things. And we're going to walk through a little bit later more in the document what these things are and how to put them into an organized fashion to make decisions. So again, I wanted to run through this really quick, and then we'll dig into the doc. So the big rocks concept was originated by Stephen Covey. Actually, there's another name attributed to it I can't think of right now. Stephen Covey was famous for telling a story. It's the idea that if you put the big rocks of your life in first, the really important things, the things you have to get done, the stuff will fit in around them. And so this image demonstrates the idea that if you put all the stuff in first, you don't have room for the big important pieces. But if you put the big important pieces in, the stuff seems to somehow all get done as well. So that's that idea. I think it's a pretty simple concept that provides a great visual. And again, in the document, we'll get into more what are some of the big rocks that you would put in there. They're very specific to what you want to do. I've got a bigger list in the document as well that covers some of the things that I think that you would want to consider as some of your big rocks. So we've also got big lists in the guide. So again, we'll get to that. But I think when you've got the list of all the things to do, it becomes a lot easier to put them into spots instead of just chasing the things that you feel like you should be doing, rather than having a plan. For me, my best energy is in the morning. I know not everybody's that way, but I think a lot of people are. I've got to have a clear morning plan that involves no phone and no email and no social media. I have to get up and focus and get some me time, coffee, meditation, go for a run. My day is just not good if I don't do that. And I would imagine if you're a similar plan, or if you're an evening or a night person, build your schedule around that, where if you do get to a scramble in the morning, but your creative energy happens at night, build your schedule around that and work with it. Also being flexible, especially the more you get into management. If you're growing a company, if you're an owner or a management, you've got to leave time for your agents that need help, or for your management that needs you for tips or help or whatever. So really, the bigger your company starts to get, the more you've got to have stuff in there. I think when people hear time blocking, a lot of times they think that means that from 9 to 10, I do this, and from 10 to 11, I do this. And that kind of defeats the purpose, because you're not allowing for life to happen. I'm a big nerd on color coding. For me, red in my calendar means I need to be somewhere, or at least be on screen, or something to that effect. I use green for some financial things. I use orange for internal company items. So just things like that can help you at a glance get a feel for what your day looks like, or what you have this morning, or when you need to be, dressed up and showing up type of thing. So again, adjusting it. This is not a science, it's more of an art. So you're not going to write down the perfect schedule and execute it. You're going to write down the perfect schedule, and then it's going to be imperfect as soon as you start to execute. So just allow yourself to iterate without jumping from thing to thing. And again, if you're new to this, don't try to leverage every minute of every hour and all that. Leave it. Keep it simple so that you can have some wins, and then it becomes addicting. You're going to want to do it more the more that you have success with even just small pieces. So another big part of this is your workspace. I constantly do this. I actually last weekend updated my workspace again a little bit. It's just when you've got all the tools you need, you've got a comfortable spot, your system is updated, whatever those pieces are for you, it makes a huge difference. And just how you feel sitting in your workspace and working. And it can be as simple as putting a painting on the wall, or painting the walls, moving your desk around, whatever that is. But keeping that tidy is definitely key. Here's a quick example of what not to do. And another thing that's especially hard in real estate, and I'm very guilty of this, or have been guilty of this in the past, being busy with stuff does not put money in your pocket. Now, granted, there are business activities that you have to do that are not directly revenue producing. So I'm not suggesting that you can just not do stuff and be productive. But it's real easy to work at a computer or even organize your follow-up boss. I'm thrilled if you're going to take time to clean up your follow-up boss. But if you're doing that instead of making your calls, that's not going to make you any money. So you got to find the blend of both of those. There's just a lot of things you can do in this business that will keep you busy, that will not turn into money. So just be really mindful of activities that are revenue generating, where to put them. We're going to go to this in depth in our document, in our guide. We've got a blank version of this that we'll look at so that you guys can fill out what's important to you. But there's another concept attributed to Stephen Covey, the urgent and important. And the idea is that the items in this quadrant up here, the urgent and important, are really things that you need to do. And often they are urgent, but you need to manage the number of those things you have. Everything can't be urgent and important. Then there are things that are not urgent and important that are really important, like taking your CE classes, like building up internal systems, making sure that your finances are on track. Those are not things you have to scramble to do, but they are very important. So you need to set aside that focused time. When you do that, I'll talk a little later about a strategy I have for doing that I do personally that's been great. And then urgent and not important. A little bit different in real estate. I know we're going to get phone calls that do require us to drop what we're doing and go show a house, or something similar to that. But just trying to manage that best you can and know that that's going to happen. It is going to happen. You are going to get a phone call that they have to see something right now, or an agent needs an immediate answer. That's just always a thing. And then the urgent and not important, the subtitle they have here is limit. I think social media is a great example of this. And that's not to say that social media is not important. And I think obviously if you're actually actively, legitimately getting business from it, like people DMing you and all that, find a way to just balance that. It's not possible to be on social media all day, every day. It's not possible. And I would argue it's not very healthy. But it's also something that obviously you've got to be present, and if people comment or DM you, it's got to be there, but you could spend your whole day doing that and not get to any of the things that you really need to be doing. So that's it for the presentation segment. I wanted to go through that, but keep it also pretty short. And so now we're going to dig into the guide. And Bridget, if you haven't already, can you drop the link in for this guide? You guys can all grab this. Obviously, you can save it. You can print out the pages if you think it's going to be helpful. I would challenge everybody to at least give this a good shot or spend a little time thinking about it. Again, I don't consider myself an expert here, but I've definitely been studying this for a long time, and it's a very complicated puzzle that's worth working on. I also want to note that in this guide, there's a bunch of kind of resources, whether they're clickable or things that you can fill out. And I just want to say that this is not designed for you to do all those things. Obviously you can. I think everybody thinks a little differently. And my guess is that one or two of these pieces will really resonate with you. And so again, the expectation is not that you have to fill all these things out and then get it all figured out. It's more that, oh, my brain thinks really well that way, I'm going to do this method. And, again, I say this a lot, but in real estate, like if you're a sole practitioner, especially, you're expected to be a marketer and a CRM expert and, having all the right scripts with what to say. You've got to manage your finances. Like if you're one person doing all this, it's unbelievable all the things you have to try to do. And so I think, again, this is why this is especially important here, but I don't need to harp on that. You guys are all living this with me. So, and, again, the hardest thing is making the decision that you want to try to get better at this. For me, I started doing this in little chunks. I would say, hey, Monday mornings, I'm not going to take phone calls, or I'm not going to set up appointments so I can set the week up right. I've started what I call an untouchable day, where the Thursdays where there aren't office hours, I don't set any appointments. I still work, and I get an unbelievable amount of stuff done because I don't have a bunch of calls. And people aren't expecting me to show up for a specific thing. I can sit and focus on the high level aspects of the business, creative time, writing blog posts, shooting videos, things like that. And it took me a while to grow up to do a full day. I did an untouchable morning for a long time because I couldn't disappear for a whole day, and things all run well. So the more you start to do this, the better you'll get at it. So that's the key. And we've got some reading recs, many of which cover that same idea, like Atomic Habits. The other thing I love to do, and we've got this in here as well, is just writing down all the things you do, or maybe the things you should be doing, because some of these are things you should do that you're not doing, and categorize them. I think what you'll start to find is that you've got all these things are marketing, and these things are operations, and these things are finance, and these things are prospecting. And the more you get those things together, there's two things you can do. You can do similar activities at the same time. Say, hey, I'm going to do my marketing work on Wednesdays. And you also still start to be more clear on where you can delegate. So you could say, hey, I could hire a VA to do that, or I could get an intern to help me with this. But until you've got the clarity of what those tasks are, just finding a person isn't going to help you much. And essentially, it's going to help you come up with a job description. So if you can have, oh, I wish I posted a new listing every Tuesday, and I send out an email every Friday, and I, updated our blog once a week. Now that you've got that clarity, you can start to say, oh, I can hire a college kid or a VA to do that. So just getting all the stuff on paper. I still do this probably a couple times a year, write down the categories. Am I the only one that can do this? Oh, that's marketing. Oh, that's finance. I've got a person for that. So just dumping it all on paper, really, and categorizing it, I think is the key. And then the big rock piece is what we covered before. Let me see where that is in the doc, because we have a list of them down here. I think we edited it to these actually. So we put the big rocks into the personal business, and this is a working on the business, working in your business here, and then below that is the working in your business as a business owner. I didn't phrase it the way I normally phrase it. So this is as someone in production, and this is as a business owner. So these are some of the big rocks you're going to want to put down. Put down first, so then again, the stuff is gonna fill in around those. So now back up here so I don't derail myself on that. And then back to the idea of the busyness does not equal business, like we mentioned. So this is the 4-quadrant system. I want to dig a little bit into this too. So this is, in this guide, there's a blank version of this. And this is, again, where you can list the things that fall into these categories. What is urgent and important? And it starts to give you clarity around, like, should I drop everything and go do this showing? If Monday is your marketing time and you really need to get some marketing done, it helps you make a smarter decision around where you're spending that time. Hey, this is urgent and important. I got to do it now. This is urgent and not important. Is it something I have to do or something I can delegate? If it's not urgent and important, you still got to get it done, but it's got to be time blocked, because those are the things. This is why everybody always says, oh, I'm working in my business, but not on my business. The not urgent and important is the on your business. And then the not urgent, not important, again, is the ones you should ideally limit if possible, or set aside certain times. Believe it or not, if you don't see every Facebook and Instagram notification the minute they come in, that's okay. I would argue, I've shared the strategy before, and it works. If you make a Facebook post and somebody comments on it right away and you comment back to them, you're spending less time in the Facebook algorithm. I should probably stop giving the secret away. If you make a post and somebody comments on it and you comment on it 30 minutes later, and then they comment back, and then another person comments and you comment 30 later, Facebook is actually, the algorithm is essentially saying, oh, this is an interesting post. We're going to make sure that people, friends, relevant people are going to see this post. So you're actually going to get more traction on your social media if you're not constantly immediately replying. Obviously a DM is different, but the comments and things like that, you might find that it being less, you might find it to be less important. I took all social media off my phone a couple of years ago, and it's been the best thing I ever did. I don't miss anything. I'm not as quick as some people, but it's amazing. It's amazing for focus time as well. It's too hard to focus when stuff is constantly coming at you. I'm looking to maybe do a session on this. So if it would be valuable, feel free to let me know, however is appropriate. But just your notifications on your phone. I think too many of us just have notifications on and don't modify them. I'm a careful student of what can be on my lock screen and what cannot be. And then the iPhones or any iOS now has the focus mode where you can tell it what apps are important, what people are important to get through that focus time and which are not. So if you have an iPhone, if you're an Apple user, I would encourage you to dig into those do not disturb or focus time settings. They're really amazing and valuable as far as controlling kind of who and what can get to you. So we covered the workspace, but again, I think it bears mentioning again, it's got to be, it doesn't have to be beautiful. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all filing cabinets, but I was building some woodworking project with somebody recently. And when we were doing it, they kept putting the drill over here and then putting the saw over here and putting it kind of like wherever it was, wherever it ended up. And it occurred to me, how much people aren't kind of naturally that way. For better or worse, naturally, I'm the person who will use a saw, put it down in one place, know exactly where it is without looking, use it again, put it down, use it again. And those habits, create where you're not making constant decisions always. And they also allow you to spend less time in the unimportant things. How many of us have spent 5 minutes searching for a pen or trying to figure out what to open? Whereas if you're sitting at a desk working or in your car with clients, like, you should probably have a pen consistently handy. Buy a box of them on Amazon and put them in your glove compartment. But like, there are things you're going to constantly need. And if you're spending your energy looking for them or figuring out what they are, that's not a good use of your time and energy. And similarly, I love this part of it. I think people all know that Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg and some other CEO tech type people really wear the same clothes pretty consistently. And I would argue a suit is probably not that different. And a big part of that is not having to start every morning fresh with like, oh my goodness, what am I going to put on today? This could be laying your clothes out the night before. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying you have to wear the same thing every day, especially if you're client facing, but just things that you can prep where you're not making constant decisions on everything all of the time. There are certain things that really can and probably should be pretty consistent. So cool. I appreciate the feedback on that. So we will definitely do some notification type of classes. So again, I don't know that I need to go through these, but just the idea of like, take these things, take this guide, circle things that are important to you here. Obviously, you can't necessarily do all these things. Pick 3 things from each of these. If you're still in production, well, if you're still in production, you're going to need more than 3 of these things. But real simple, if you're a new agent too, just getting to know the market, calling your sphere. Hey, I just got into real estate, or hey, I just joined this team, or I just moved to this office. And again, things like client calls, like, let's not forget, everybody's all about leads. Let's not forget though, if you have active clients, they need to be getting updates too, even if there's no update, like listings. Now it's kind of a different story because we're not so worried about not having showings as much, but if you have a listing and it's not getting showings, you should be calling them every week if you want to keep that listing. So transaction management, again, not always urgent, but very important. So just things around picking when we're going to do this. I said all day is not an option for social. Just Googling yourself. I don't think enough people search themselves online. Sometimes I'll talk to somebody new and I'll search them and I'll be like, wow, I can't even find this guy when I type in real estate, city. Just be aware of what's out there. Do people find your site early on? Are there other things out there? Do you have a common name? Just being aware of all of these things because other people are doing it. Email too is a bit like social. It's obviously very important, especially if you're transacting by email, but you just can't be a slave to your email. And I'm still working on this. I'm not great at that myself. And then as a business owner, reviewing your financials, reviewing your systems, recruiting and hiring. If you're recruiting agents, if you're bringing on people, you have to always be recruiting. You don't literally just decide, oh, we're going to add some agents. You have to have a process for that. You have to have a basic onboarding process, which I think we've shared in prior sessions. You got to have some of that together. You literally are always recruiting in some sense if you're looking to add people. So then agent training, agent questions and problems, all these things are things you need to either be time blocking or just otherwise be prepared for. So we've got some notes here on how to take action. Some of the worksheets that we've included here, building out the morning plan. This is the same as what was in the presentation, but a little more detail, I think, here. Some reading recommendations. If you're a reader, or frankly, even if you're not, there are a lot of great books on this subject. There's maybe too many great books on the subject. Similar to the guide, I think there will be certain things that will resonate with you more than others. Carrie, I noticed that Carrie made a comment on Atomic Habits on the post for this course. That's a great place to start. There's a good reason why that is first. 168 Hours by Laura Vanderkam is one of my favorite books. She talks a lot about how the fact that you've got this 168 hours, but what you put where matters. Like if you have school age kids, you can't spend time with them at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's a factor that has to be considered, but she's got some great resources for how to do all those things. And I would argue that she is a time management expert for sure. So all her stuff is great. Essentialism by Greg McKeown is there's a subtitle. I think it's something like The Art of Doing Less. And it's a really good guide as well for kind of determining what is important and the things you really do need to put your focus on. So I'm not going to run through each of these, but there are a lot of good options in here. Traction is a little more around the idea of having, that clear operating system that helps answer a lot of these questions too. What is urgent and important? And Rocket Fuel is similar. It's in the sense it's more about the role of kind of the who does what, having the integrator and the visionary, but all great sources. I would say if you're new to digging into this, the first 2 books would be a great place to start. And these are links, and they should be links in your doc as well. This is a great video by Matt Diavella that talks a lot about the decision fatigue stuff. The Wheel of Life is a recent post by a company called Reboot. That's one of my favorite companies. They counsel a lot of big time CEOs and things like that on how they run their business and running better people ops, things like that. These 2 EverHour links are both to resources. EverHour is a company that provides some resources with templates on time blocking. This is actually a fillable Google Sheet that you could use for this, and a great blog post by Kat Cole on how to say no. Kat's sister's actually in real estate. I think she's a Follow Boss user as well. But Kat is she was the CEO of Focus Brands for a long time. She's, I think, stepped away now to do some other work that's pretty interesting as well. So definitely check out that post and check her out. So we also included, again, you can Google these and find ones that may work for you. We did include a time block grid. And if you are going to print this out and do some of this by hand, I would highly recommend maybe printing 2 or 3 copies of this page, because you are going to have scratch outs. You are going to, oh no, I want to move that 30 minutes later. Or, oh, I'm going to do this. Or, oh, I need an hour for that, not 30 minutes. So if you go ahead and prep yourself to have a few copies of this handy, I think it'll serve you really well, because you are going to edit things or move them up, or, oh, I want to move that to Thursday instead of Monday. Personally, my week starts on Monday in my brain. So I like having Monday first. So again, you can find your own version of this or use ours, but just visualizing it. So getting the things and then starting to put the things into a schedule. Another idea that I literally just thought of, you could always add some like catch up time. If you're like, hey, I don't want to take appointments from 9 to 11 on Friday, but I know I'm going to need to get caught up on some stuff. That might be a good idea to bake that in as well. I've started to move really towards that, where I'm just blocking off time that's like operations time, or checking in with, new people that work with us time, like just setting all those aside. Again, it doesn't have to be super specific, but just saying I'm going to be focused on this area in this time in this day is really powerful, and you'll always get better at doing it. Something I think either I skipped through or didn't mention, something that's really important is putting aside time to check in on this. I think too many people want to set this up. It would be great if we could set this up. If I had the magic day for you, I'd give it to you. I think you got to set aside time in the future, probably ideally put in your calendar, to come back and look at this. Is this working? Am I doing that? Do I still need 2 hours for marketing time or for transaction management on this day or at this time? It is going to change, and largely it's going to change, hopefully, because you're getting better at it. The better you get at this, the less time you need to tackle these things, because you're building those habits and you're building processes around, okay, this is how we run our team meeting. We do this, but we have an agenda before we go into it. You're building those systems, and they'll continue to pay dividends or be exponential, which is a part of what Atomic Habits covers as well. The fact that these things compound over time. But be sure you put time in, whether it's a month or 3 months or 6 months out in your calendar, to remind you to come back and look at this. That's a key thing for success. And so we also added this. I'm really big into this too. I find that as you grow, there are things that you need to stop doing. And it's hard, like a lot of us, like I've always done it, or I know how to do it, or only I can do it this way. The more you start to grow and take on additional responsibility in your business, you are going to have to stop doing things. Now, whether you can stop doing them or whether you can delegate them, that's up to you, and it depends on the thing. But and I find there are always new things we should start doing. Oh, I need to start that email newsletter. Oh, I need to start, reassessing my smart list, or I need to start training this new agent in my office, so maybe they'll join me and we could form a team. There's always things you should be starting to do. In that case, if you were going to be able to do all the things, you're going to have to stop doing some. And I think it's equally as important to talk about the things that you should keep doing, because there are some things you don't want to rock the boat. I'm not suggesting you burn everything down and redo your schedule either. That probably won't work for you either. But there are things that are either working or they are not 20% problems. If you're a follower of the Pareto principle, that's that 20% of your efforts get you 80% of your results is the short version. So there probably are things that you're doing that you need to keep doing, but I think it helps to spell those out. And again, this is just another resource to find the things that you need to be doing in order to put them into your calendar or to put them into a format so you can get them done, or so you can say, hey, I'm going to start doing this Q1 this year. And then Q2, I'm going to start doing this other thing. If that's useful for you, you might print out multiple copies of this page and say, here's things I should start doing right now. But then come Q2, here's things I need to start doing in Q2. So that might be another good way you could plan this, is to actually make, I wouldn't get too crazy. I would say maybe 2 at most. But that's something you could do as well if that is useful. So, and I think the last page is just a thank you page. So you guys should all have this guide. If you're watching the recording of this, we'll pop in a link to this guide as well. Please download it. Please find your own way, print out multiple copies, share it with a friend, whatever's valuable. It's not gated by email or anything. It's just for you guys as office hours attendees and Follow Up Boss users. If anybody has any questions, throw them to me, but I think this is largely pretty straight ahead. And I would love to hear your wins in the comments in the Facebook community. So feel free to drop in a note under the Facebook Live that, hey, I tried this and it worked, or hey, I need some advice on this, and we're happy to help. So appreciate you guys joining us today. Hope this was valuable, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Take care.